In this episode, we're going to have a look at a what you see is what you get editor or WYSIWYG, and this one's really neat. It is compatible with ActiveStorage, which is really nice, so that means uploading files will work just as you would expect, and the nice part is that this is fully Markdown supported. So we can look at a preview of what that's going to look like, and we can create it, and it would display just as you would expect. And so this is going to be using a third-party library, but even though this doesn't work with ActionText, I think that's okay in certain situations. Maybe you have an existing application where everything is already a text column and you're wanting to switch the backends. And I really like that this is Markdown supported. You're able to do other things like create a table, put in some code blocks, and it's all going to work as you would expect, showing the table, the different stylings, and the code block. And so that's what we're going to look at in this episode. However, there is an update later this year coming for ActionText, which should be a drop-in replacement. So I'm really excited to cover that one as well. But in some cases, we still want a text column, and within that column, we may want to use some of the Markdown. And so that's what we're going to be looking at in this episode, is how we can create this functionality. And to do it, we are going to be using Marksmith and explore some of its features. To get started, I'll generate a scaffold for our products. We'll have a name, and then we'll also have a description, and we'll make this a text column. You can make it a string, but just keep in mind that a string is limited to 255 characters, and that's going to include any of the styling that Marksmith is going to be adding. We'll also need to install ActiveStorage, so we can do that with the ActiveStorage :install, and that'll copy over the migrations, and we can run the railsdb migrate to migrate our database. We do need to add a couple of gems, so we'll run the bundle add Marksmith, and then also the common marker, which is going to be used similar to red carpet to convert the Markdown to HTML. We'll then need to run the yarn add avo-hq /Marksmith, or if you're using import maps, you can run the bin import map, and then you can pin the avo-hq /Marksmith. We will need to come under our JavaScript, and in the controllers in the index, we need to register it. So we can import in Marksmith controller, and we'll import that in from the @avo-hq /Marksmith. We can then call the application.register, and we want to register Marksmith to the Marksmith controller. And then finally, we will need to come under our layouts, and in the application HTML ERB, I'm going to copy this style sheet link tag and add the Marksmith header as well. And that's all the setup we have to do. So now we can come into our products where we have a text area for the description, and we can change this to the Marksmith. If you're not using a form, you are able to do the Marksmith _tag to get that similar functionality. And then to display our description, we can go under the product partial, and right now we're just showing the product description. We can call another equal sign, and then the Marksmith, and then our product description. However, this is a bit dangerous because it could open you up to cross-site scripting. But we're going to leave it like this for now, and we're going to test it out. So we'll create a new product. We see that it is working. We can give it a title, so a heading tag. We'll make some bold text. We'll make something that is italics, and then we'll try inserting in an image. However, this just leaves it for us to put in the URL. So instead, I want to upload, and I'll select my image, and then it shows up. We'll create the product, and that actually works. So that's great. But now what I want to focus on is what if we didn't have this Marksmith? If we just show our product description, that's simply going to have all of our Markdown. So we do need that Marksmith. However, if we get rid of the double equals, and if we just use a normal ERB tag, you'll see that we have the HTML. So you want to be careful here because you don't want to use the equals, or you don't want to use raw, which will work. However, this does open you up to cross-site scripting. So instead, you'll want to use sanitize, and then we can sanitize the Marksmith and then the product description. I'm going to make this multi-line so it's easier to read. We can say what attributes we want to include, and these attributes are going to be on the HTML elements. So we want to make sure that we include something like the style, class, lang, and maybe anything else that you would want to add in. We can also include certain tags, which we want to add in the table heading, table row, TDN span, and let's just leave it at this for now. So we'll save it, we'll come back, and things aren't looking quite right. And so the reason for this is that we're missing a lot of the sanitizers. So I'm actually going to wrap this in a tag, and we're going to add some class. Because this is Tailwind, we'll add the MS Pros, and I'll use the MS Pros-Slate. Let's save these changes and have a look, and it's still the same, and that's because we need to add some more tags. We can also include, in addition to this list, the action view, helpers, and the sanitize helper, and we want to grab the sanitizer underscore vendor dot safe list sanitizer. We want to grab the allowed tags, and we want to make sure that this is an array. So I'll save this, and now, coming back, this looks a lot better, but we are missing the image. And that's because we need to add source to the attribute. And so now we can save this, and when we come back, now things look a lot better. And so one thing I really like about this gem is that it's very simple. It doesn't have really any dependencies other than the common marker, but you are able to use your own backend if you do want to use red carpet. And there's some customizations that you can do with Marksmith, but I think the defaults out of the box are pretty good, especially because it does support ActiveStorage. And again, I don't think that this is quite the replacement for Tricks or ActionText. I do like the built-in functionality that we get out of the box with ActionText. And the new thing coming later this year, I'm really excited about seeing as well because it's supposed to support Markdown out of the box. But if you're looking for something like this and you don't have time to wait, I would probably say go ahead and keep using ActionText for now and then switch to the new functionality when it's released later this year. If you have a one-off use case where you're not going to be using ActionText, but a couple of your text fields, you are wanting to support some Markdown with this nice functionality with the ActiveStorage integration, then this could be a great option, especially on older applications that maybe you were using something before and it's kind of dated and you've been looking to upgrade. Well, that's all for this episode. Thanks for watching. For more videos, check out driftandruby.com.